Right. Hello, my name is Sungjun Won. I'm a fourth year doctoral student at the Ohio State University. I'm here with Dr. Chris Wolters to talk about his research on behalf of AERA, Studying and Self-Regulated Learning SIG. First of all, thank you so much for agreeing to this interview. I would like to start off by asking you to tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Again, my name is Chris Wolters. I am at the Ohio State University in Columbus, Ohio. And really I have two positions. One is sort of as a regular professor or full-time faculty member. And I think people know generally what that means. Another half of my appointment is as the director for the Walter E. Dennis Learning Center. So it's a center here on campus named for Walter E. Dennis, who donated some money to get it started. And in that position, I am in charge of some instructional activities, some coursework, and we also do workshops and one-on-one peer academic coaching, all sort of designed to, I think, in the context of the people that are likely to watch, help build college students' self-regulated learning and help them to be, by doing that, help them to be successful college students.
Great. Then could you please tell us about your research interest and share some of your recent studies?
Sure, I can do that. As you might expect, since I'm on the Self-Regulated Learning SIG channel, my research interests involve self-regulated learning. And specifically, I have work that looks at the sort of role and intersection of motivation and self-regulated learning, looking at both at how motivational factors may impact or at least be related to the kinds of regulatory strategies that students use and how those together may help to explain their academic success. I also am very interested in how students take an active, purposeful role in regulating or managing their level of motivation and their type of motivation. More recently, my work has also tended towards investigating and trying to understand time management as a self-regulatory process. So how students plan, monitor, control, and reflect on their use of time, and how that's an important factor in determining their academic success and really overall well-being. Within both of those areas, sort of have work that I do on sort of more theoretical questions, including sort of measurement and assessment kinds of factors, but also in trying to pursue lines of research that can lead to increased applications to practice. So given my role as the director here, I'm very interested in sort of supporting in my students or in others work that we can then turn around and use to help college students through our various forms of outreach.
Okay, my last question is, what are 3 tips you have for graduate students to become more productive researchers?
Okay, so what tips would I have for students, graduate students that want to be more productive as researchers? I think my first tip is to really focus on and try to understand what productive means for you personally, right? So productive can mean a lot of different things. Productive can mean that you have a lot of published work and that you get grant money and are a sort of flourishing educational researcher in that respect. Productive can mean that you are developing a line of research that has a real connection to practice and you're improving the lives of students, or productive can mean that you're engaged in organizations like the SIG and sort of influencing other people and sort of providing a structure to make all of this work well. So I think it's important to really consider and think about what productivity means to you, and then to prioritize that, whatever it happens to be. So prioritizing the time that you write, or the time that you devote to teaching, or the time that you devote to service, seeking out those opportunities and really pursuing them with a passion. So that's one tip, I think. Know what you want to do and prioritize the effort that will get you there. I think a second tip that I would say is to leverage your time and effort, right? So I try to do that by integrating my teaching with my research, making sure that I'm teaching stuff that will help me better understand and sort of advance my own research interests, by having this administrative role that I think helps me to feel productive in translating some of the theoretical work into practice. So by leveraging, I mean sort of don't completely separate all this stuff. Try to get a synthesis and an integration that lets you achieve multiple goals at one time. Sometimes that can be collaborating with people and leveraging your effort on bigger projects, but always, I think, looking for ways in which you can increase your productivity through strategic interactions, right? I think another important thing is, and I typically say this to assistant professors, but these days it's also good advice for graduate students, which is to learn how to strategically say no. And you know, part of prioritization or prioritizing important work is learning how to recognize work that's not as important, and despite some pressures that you might have to engage in that work, whether it's service activity or teaching or other kinds of things, to learn how to say no. And saying, you know, sometimes that can be really difficult as a graduate student. Every opportunity looks interesting and fruitful and possibly what you might be basing your career on. And so these decisions can be hard. But I think if you say yes to everything, at least by the time you get to be, you know, later in your academic or your graduate school career, you need to be sort of focusing on those things like your dissertation and other stuff that are going to be what really matters to you. So learning how to say no. And I have one more. So
okay, go ahead.
I think in closing, I think in sort of thinking about that, the last thing I would say is if you want to be more productive, enjoy what you do. So what that means is make sure that you're making decisions about the work that you do based on stuff that you enjoy and you're really interested in. And also don't forget about the non-academic side of your life. So it can be difficult at times when you're a graduate student working on your dissertation or as a new assistant professor or something, that you have to spend all of your time and all of your energy on work. And I think in the long run that does the sort of undermines your productivity rather than building it up. I think you have to have a life, and I think you have to enjoy yourself in that life, and be stress-free or have outlets for stress that allow you to be productive when you're doing your academic work. So,
Okay. Sounds great. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Good luck for everybody.
I'm sure all the other graduate students in the SIG can benefit from the tips you just shared today. Well, again, thanks for participating in this interview with me. Thank you.
Not a problem. Thank you very much.